Morning, children. I welcome you all once again to the online classes in English for class 12th. So, we are discussing the syllabus of class 12th subject English core, right? And we are going to continue the topic that we started yesterday, that is the rat trap by Selma Lagerlöf. Now, let us have a brief review of what we read, what we discussed in the previous session. The story is of a peddler, a rat trap peddler who makes rat traps of wire, and he is so poor that he has to beg, and even at times he would steal in order to arrange for the material he required for making those rat traps, right? So he was leading actually a very miserable life. Now, he was a vagabond. The story tells us that he was a wanderer, right? He was homeless. So he kept on moving from place to place, seeking shelter wherever he can. Now, during his wanderings, during his movement, he used to keep himself engaged in thoughts, right? So, during one such occasions, a strange idea strikes his mind. The idea that strikes his mind was, he suddenly realizes that the whole world is a rat trap, right? He was a rat trap seller. He was busy in making and selling rat traps. So he was thinking about rat traps most of the times, and during such meditations, one of such meditations, he suddenly comes across the idea that the entire world is a rat trap, a trap that offers various baits to humankind, baits related to materialistic world, right? The things, tempting things, attractive pleasures are like baits, and we, that is human beings, they get attracted towards those baits, just like a rat is fooled by the bait that is offered in a rat trap, and thus they get trapped. So this idea amused the it amuses the rat trap peddler. Okay, he actually seeks pleasure when he thinks about this particular idea. He remembers people whom he knew, right? Those who are already trapped in this rat trap of the world, or those who are not yet trapped but they are circling around the bait. So he feels like he seeks pleasure, as I said. Why? Because actually he had not been treated very nicely by people on several occasions, right? Whenever he asked for help in any kind, help of any kind, like maybe he would beg for something, or he seeks shelter for the night, he was refused rudely. So when he thought about those people, he was actually seeking pleasure in this idea. This actually was a reaction, right? His reaction towards the rude behavior, towards the rude treatment of these people towards him. So once he happens to seek shelter in a crofter's cottage. That crofter was lonely. He lived all alone. He had no family, no wife, no children. So he was very happy, right, on receiving a guest. Why? Because now he could talk to that person, he could play with him, he could drink with him. So he was very happy. And peddler was actually surprised, because he had never seen such a person in his life. He had been to many places, he had met various people, but the crofter was the first one who was very frank to the peddler. Now he was so frank that he even shows him the place where he kept his money, right? So they spend a merry night, right? It was a cheerful evening actually. They ate food, then they played together, they played a game of cards, and they went to bed. And in the morning, both of them went their own way. The crofter went to the creamery and the peddler went his own way. But there's a twist in the story. About half an hour later, he comes back to the crofter's place and takes the money, right? He breaks a window pane and takes the money from the pouch that was hanging there and leaves. Now, initially, he was very happy that he has 30 kroners in his pocket and he can spend a few days very happily, right? And see, although he was happy, but it wasn't that he wasn't conscious. He was cautious as well. He was very alert that he should not be caught. So he, instead of taking up the highway road, he went through the forest. Now the forest was a confusing one. So he lost his way. Having lost his way and being extremely tired, he lost all the hopes of survival. He lost all the hopes that he would never be able to get his way out of that forest. But suddenly, he saw a silver lining in the dark cloud. What was it? He heard the thumping sound of work going on in an iron mill. So he somehow drags himself towards that direction, reaches that point, and with the permission of the blacksmith and his assistant who were there, present there, he sits by the side of the furnace so that he could keep himself warm in the cold night of December. Now, it was an iron mill whose owner was famous for being very honest in the sense that he wanted to supply the best quality iron in the market. So, to ensure that the work goes on well without any cheating, without any manipulation, he would take frequent inspecting rounds of the mill. So, that moment, after a few moments after the peddler reached the iron mill, the owner also reaches there. And the story ended and at this note, right? So we are going to continue with the story here. As he walked along with the money in his pocket, he felt quite pleased with the smartness. He realized, of course, that at first he dared not continue on the public highway, but must turn off the road. This we discussed just now, into the woods. During the first hours, this caused him no difficulty. Later in the day, it becomes worse. For it was a big and confusing forest which he had gotten into. He tried, to be sure, to walk in a definite direction, but the paths twisted back and forth so strangely. He walked and walked without coming to the end of the wood, and finally he realized that he had only been walking around in the same part of the forest. All at once he recalled his thoughts about the world and the rat trap. Now his own turn had come. He had let himself be fooled by a bait and had been caught. The whole forest, with its trunks and branches, its thickets and fallen logs, closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison from which he could never escape. So, we just now discussed that he takes up a way through the forest, but he gets lost and he was in a situation, he finds himself caught in a situation that he feels that he is in an impenetrable means a place from where escape is impossible. So he thought that now it's all over. He's never going to get out of that forest. It was late in December. Darkness was already descending over the forest. This increased the danger and increased also the gloom and despair. Finally, he saw no way out and he sank down on the ground, tired to death, thinking that his last moment had come. But just as he laid his head on the ground, he heard a sound, a hard, regular thumping. Thumping is a sound of some heavy object beating against another. There was no doubt as to what that was. He raised himself. Those are the hammer strokes from an iron mill, he thought. There must be people nearby. He summoned all his strength, got up, and staggered in the direction of the sound. The Ramjo Iron Works, which are now closed down, were not so long ago a large plant with smelter, rolling mill, and forge. In the summertime, long lines of heavily loaded barges and scows slid down the canal, which led to a large inland lake. And in the winter time, the roads near the mill were black from all the coal dust, which sifted down from the big charcoal crates. Right? So, that Ramjo Iron Mills, it was a large plant actually with various equipments like smelter, rolling mill, and forge. The pictures are given here. Smelter is used to melt the metal and separate it from its ore. Rolling mill is used to make sheets of uniform thickness, metal sheets of uniform thickness. And forge is that iron mill actually. So he reaches there, and we are also informed of one thing, that transportation in that particular, transportation for materials, right, in that particular mill was done through boats, flat bottom boats, which are known as barges and scows, during the summer time, and the road was taken for transportation during the winters. During one of the long dark evenings just before Christmas, the master smith and his helpers sat in the dark forge near the furnace, waiting for the pig iron which had been put in the fire to be ready to put on the anvil. Every now and then, one of them got up to stir the glowing mass with the long iron bar, returning in a few moments. So, two people were already present there. It was the master blacksmith and his assistant, and they were taking turns to stir the iron which was put to melt. Dripping with perspiration, though, as was the custom, he wore nothing but a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. So they were wearing single piece of clothing, that was a long shirt, with a pair of wooden shoes. But still, in such a cold December, they were dripping with perspiration because of it simply highlights the strong heat, right? High temperatures they were working in. All the time there were many sounds to be heard in the forge. The big bellows groaned and the burning coal cracked. The fire boy shoveled charcoal into the maw of the furnace with a great deal of clatter. Outside roared the waterfall, and a sharp north wind whipped the rain against the brick-tiled roof. So these are the various sounds that were creating a lot of noise, and maybe because of those sounds, his entering the forge was not noticed by anyone. Even the blacksmith and his assistant could not notice him until he came closer to the furnace and stood there. Now you come across the word bellow here. It's a device that is used to blow air into the fire. The picture is given here. That is for your reference. It was probably on account of all this noise that the blacksmith did not notice that a man had opened the gate and entered the forge until he stood close up to the furnace. Surely it was nothing unusual for poor vagabonds, without any better shelter for the night, to be attracted to the forge by the glow of night which escaped through the sooty panes. Yes, now this line, surely it was nothing unusual. So, this experience of having poor visitors at night, specifically at night, vagabonds visiting that forge, was not new, it wasn't unusual. There had been various previous incidents as well. So, these people working in the mill, they were used to the presence of such vagabonds. And when the peddler reaches there, when he arrives there, they remain unperturbed, right? The blacksmith glanced only casually and indifferently at the intruder. He looked the way people of his type usually did, with a long beard, dirty, ragged, and with a bunch of rat traps dangling on his chest. So the reaction of blacksmith was a simple casual glance. That's it. Indifferent glance. He didn't show any like surprise. And why so? Because this man, the visitor, he looked the way people of his type usually did. He was a vagabond and looked similar to other vagabonds. What was his appearance? He had a long beard. He was dirty, wrapped in rags, and was carrying rat traps along with him. He asked permission to stay, and the master blacksmith nodded a haughty consent without honoring him with a single word. So he was allowed by the master smith to stay there. The tramp did not say anything either. He had not come there to talk, but only to warm himself and sleep. In those days, the Ramjo's iron mill was owned by a very prominent iron master whose greatest ambition was to ship out good iron to the market. He watched both night and day to see that the work was done as well as possible. We just now discussed in the beginning that Ramjo's iron mills owner was very particular about the quality of iron, so he used to take frequent rounds of the mill, right? He was a prominent iron master. Prominent iron master means he was famous for this, for being honest. And he watched both night and day. So we are talking about day shift and night shift. Naturally, the first thing, at this very moment, he came into the forge on one of his nightly rounds of inspection. So soon after the vagabond reached or appeared at the forge, the iron master also visited. Naturally, the first thing he saw was the tall ragamuffin who had eased his way so close to the furnace that steam rose from his wet rags. Now he was wet, it was raining outside, and as he was sitting close to the furnace, steam rose from his rags, right? The iron master did not follow the example of the blacksmith, who had hardly deigned to look at the stranger. Yes, now we have already read that the blacksmith did not bother to know, he did not bother to inquire who this fellow was, why was he here at the forge. But the iron master was careful enough, he was very alert, so he goes close to the stranger, looked him over very carefully, then tore off his slouch hat to get a better view of his face. He had covered his face with his hat, and the iron master removed that hat, right, so that he could see clearly who the person was. Now, slouch hat is this one. The picture is given in the slide for your reference again. But of course, it is you, Nils Olf, he said. How you do look. Now see, to the vagabond's surprise, the iron master claims to know him. He calls him by the name Nils Olf. The man with the rat traps had never before seen the iron master at Ramjo's and did not even know what his name was. But it occurred to him that if the fine gentleman thought he was an old acquaintance, he might perhaps throw him a couple of kroner. Therefore, he did not want to undeceive him all at once. Now, initially, the peddler was surprised. He had never seen Iron Master, he didn't know who he was. But very soon, he thought it's better to remain quiet. Why? Because maybe the rich owner of the iron mill, he might help him by offering some money. Yes, God knows things have gone downhill with me, he said. And he presents himself as this fellow Nils Ulf and says, yes, things have gone downhill with me means the times have been hard. You should not have resigned from the regiment, said the iron master. That was the mistake. If only I had still been in the service at that time, it would never have happened. Well, now of course you will come home with me. Now, this owner, the iron master, his words clearly suggest that these two people were army comrades. They worked, the iron master worked in the army, and he actually mistakes the peddler to be one of his comrades then, right? So he says to him that it's all because you resigned from the army. You should not have done that. To go along up to the manor house and be received by the owner like an old regimental comrade. That, however, did not please the tramp. So, initially the tramp, the vagabond, the peddler, he was happy that, okay, I may earn some money from the iron master. But as soon as the iron master invites his home, he doesn't like the idea, right? He is not pleased at the idea. No, I couldn't think of it, he said, looking quite alarmed. Alarmed is shocked. He had actually not thought, he had not expected the iron master to invite him over his home. So he was shocked and he refuses the invitation. He thought of the 30 kroner. To go up to the manor house would be like throwing himself voluntarily into the lion's den. So now those 30 kroners which he had forgotten about momentarily, he is reminded of that, and he thought, what if I am caught? What if it was revealed that I am not the person the iron master is thinking of? And what if the 30 kroners are revealed, discovered? So where will I go? So thinking all these things, he refuses the invitation. He only wanted a chance to sleep here in the forge and then sneak away as inconspicuously as possible. Inconspicuously means without being seen. So his plan was only to stay there for the night and leave without being noticed by anyone. The iron master assumed that he felt embarrassed because of his miserable clothing. Now, iron master thought he had some other idea. He thought that he is refusing because maybe he is feeling ashamed of his poor clothing, of the rags he was wearing. Please don't think that I have such a fine home that you cannot show yourself there, he said. Elizabeth is dead, as you may already have heard. My boys are abroad and there's no one at home except my oldest daughter and myself. We were just saying that it was too bad we didn't have any company for Christmas. Now, come along with me and help us make the Christmas food disappear a little faster. So he talks very nicely actually. He wanted to convince the peddler whom he thought to be his regimental comrade. He thought maybe he is feeling shy. So he just wanted to, in an attempt to convince him to go to his place, he says that there's no one who can say anything except for he himself and his eldest daughter. So he says that we'll be having a good time, and he talks in a very light way, right? Friendly way. But the stranger said no, and again no. And the Iron Master saw that he must give in. To give in means to surrender. Now, Iron Master knew that it's very difficult to convince. For him, it's very difficult to convince the peddler to go with him. So he decides to leave that place. It looks as though Captain Wonstale, now the complete name is given here, his friend's name, his regimental comrade's name was Captain Wonstale. He preferred to stay with you tonight, Zenstorm. He said to the master blacksmith, this is the name of the master blacksmith, and turned on his heels. Turning on his heels means going back. So the Iron Master left the place. But he laughed to himself as he went away. And the blacksmith, who knew him, understood why, well, that he had not said his last word. So although the Iron Master had left the place, the blacksmith, by the way he smiled, he knew that he had not actually given up. He is going to try something else now. It was not more than half an hour before they heard the sound of carriage wheels outside the forge, and a new guest came in. But this time it was not the Iron Master. He had sent his daughter, apparently hoping that she would have better powers of persuasion than he himself. So, actually, the Iron Master, after reaching home, he sent his daughter back to the forge with the hope that maybe she will be able to convince the so-called regimental comrade of the Iron Master. She entered, followed by a valet carrying on his arm a big fur coat. Now, valet is an attendant, actually, a word that is used. Valets used to be there in earlier times. A male attendant, who helps men to dress up, to carry their clothing. Carrying on his arm a big fur coat. She was not at all pretty, but seemed modest and quite shy. Now we are introduced to the next character here in the story, that is the daughter of the Iron Master. We are told that she was not pretty, she was not very beautiful, but she was modest and shy. In the forge, everything was just as it had been earlier in the evening. The master blacksmith and his apprentice still sat on their bench. Apprentice is assistant. And iron and charcoal still glowed in the furnace. So the scene was exactly the similar it had been a few minutes back, or maybe an hour back. The stranger had stretched himself out on the floor and lay with a piece of pig iron under his head, and his hat pulled down over his eyes. Now this vagabond, the peddler, had already slept. Actually, he was asleep. He was lying on the ground. As soon as the young girl caught sight of him, she went up and lifted his hat. The man was evidently used to sleeping with one eye open. He jumped up abruptly and seemed to be quite frightened. Now, this girl assumed that he was sleeping, but he was actually, his face was covered with the hat. He was not actually asleep, and as soon as the hat was removed, he jumped up abruptly and seemed to be quite frightened. He suddenly got up with a frightened look on his face. "My name is Edla Wilmanson," said the young girl. "My father came home and said that you wanted to sleep here in the forge tonight, and then I asked permission to come and bring you home to us. I'm so sorry, Captain, that you are having such a hard time." So it is evident that the iron master told everything about his meeting the peddler in the forge to his daughter and asked her to go and convince him to come to their place. She looked at him compassionately with her heavy eyes, and then she noticed that the man was afraid. Either he has stolen something, or else he has escaped from jail, she thought, and added quickly, "You may be sure, Captain, that you will be allowed to leave us just as freely as you came. Only please stay with us over Christmas Eve." Now, Edla noticed that the fear, right, the man was having, the peddler had, and she had a thought in her mind that either this man has stolen something, that is why he is hesitant, or maybe he has escaped from the jail. So, whatever the situation was, she ensures the man, the peddler, calling him captain, that he would be allowed to leave after the Christmas celebration, right? She said this in such a friendly manner that the rat trap peddler must have felt confidence in her. So, the writer is telling us that there was something in the words spoken by the girl named Edla Wilmanson, who was the daughter of the iron master, that the peddler, he felt safe. He felt safe in his in her company. He thought that, okay, I can go with her. "It would never have occurred to me that you would bother with me yourself, miss." He said, "I will come at once." So he agreed to go to the manor house. He accepted the fur coat which the valet handed him with a deep bow, threw it over his rags, and followed the young lady out to the carriage without granting the astonished blacksmiths so much a glance. Now, he goes back with the lady, and the blacksmiths have been described as being astonished. Why? Because there had been various occasions when vagabonds were there in the iron mill, but never ever anyone else was invited to the owner's house. This was the first man who was invited by the owner, and when he was not able to do that, he sends his daughter to do the same, right? So that made them surprised. So finally, he goes to the manor house with the girl named Edla. So here we are going to stop for the session today. This is a long story. We are going to continue in the next session with the same story. Keep yourself updated. Read the story all by yourself as well, right? Okay, let's have a brief recapitulation of this part that we have discussed. First is, who was the owner of Ramjo's iron mills? Why did he visit the mills at night? Second is, why did the peddler decline the invitation of the iron master? Next, why did the stranger not tell the iron master that he was not Nils Ulf? And the final question here is, did the stranger agree to go to the iron master's house? Why not? Now see, we have discussed in detail, so I hope that you will be able to write answers to these questions. You have 4 questions for your homework today, right? So do write them with their proper answers in your notebooks. And we shall continue the same story in the next session tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a nice day.